Hey, everybody, welcome to Your Money Map, sponsored by the Alliance for Lifetime Income. I'm your host, Jean Chatzky. Very glad to be with all of you today. Whether you are watching on LinkedIn or on Facebook, I hope that if you've got a question or a comment, you will take the time to drop it in the chat. We always like to make sure that these interactions are as collegial as they can possibly be. And today's topic is a really good one. We are talking all about second acts. And I feel like that's something that we actually dance around a lot on this program. The idea that at 60, 65, whatever age you happen to be when you transition out of that career that has gotten you through your adulting years, when you've raised a family and paid down a mortgage and maybe put some kids through college, those years are moving past you, and you get to decide what you want for your next iteration, what you want for your next adventure, what you want for your next career, because we are all living such a long time these days that it is important to fill our days with something that provides purpose, with something that provides meaning, with something that, quite frankly, often puts a little bit of money in the bank. There's nobody better to talk about this with than my guest today, Kerry Hannon. She's been here before. She is no stranger to all of you. She is an author. She is a work and retirement expert. She's a senior columnist at Yahoo Finance, where she is also an on-air contributor. She's a best-selling author of more than a dozen books, 14 books. Her latest book is In Control at 50 Plus, How to Succeed in the New World of Work. Kerry, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today.
Jean, it's an honor and truly a delight to be with you. We've been on this path together for quite some time, and it's just exciting to see what's happening out there, and the opportunity that we both have to kind of have an impact on people looking at this stage in their life and what's ahead of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to start with some optimism. I want to start with your own story, because right now you are engaged in, maybe it's not a second act, maybe in a lot of ways it's a continuation of your first act. But tell us what happened and how you found your way to Yahoo Finance.
Well, I love this story, and frankly, I could take up the whole time with it, but I will try to condense it. The exciting thing is, June, I worked in-house for 20 years of my career. I worked for Forbes and Money Magazine and U.S. News and World Report, USA Today. A really rich in-house career as a journalist, and I wrote a bunch of books along the way. Then, for 20 years, I ran my own business. I called it, my own media business, where I speaking engagements, more books, more columns, all that kind of good stuff. And then the next thing I know is I'm very active on LinkedIn, so I have a good solid profile there, and I get a query from a recruiter on LinkedIn saying, "Hey, Yahoo Finance has this opening, and we thought you might be interested in this." And I was like, "Yeah, well." I'm really enjoying running my business. And now, of course, we were coming out of the pandemic. This was about a year and a half ago. And I said, well, let me follow this trail and see what they're talking about. And sure enough, it moved along, and they ended up kind of rewriting a job description that fit the kind of work I like to do. And, and I got to the point where I interviewed with a bunch of people. It was so much fun. And here at this point, I'm 61 years old, right? And I get a job opportunity to go in-house at Yahoo Finance, doing everything I love to do. And, I said to my sister, I said, what do you think? And she goes, well, Kerry, if it doesn't work out, it's not exactly going to ruin your career, right? But the beautiful thing is it has worked out. And the cool thing about it is, I think, Jean, you and I talked about this previously, is that my editor, my manager, so to speak, is probably 2 decades younger than me. To be honest with you, I haven't asked her age, and we don't talk about mine either. But it is the absolute best thing that's happened to me from a career perspective. The energy I get from working with somebody who's younger than me, looking at some of these topics that I've grappled with over the years, work and jobs, retirement, all this stuff. She comes with a fresh lens, and it really has sparked me in a way I never thought of. Also, my learning curve has ramped up because now I'm covering things like Social Security and Medicare, which frankly, before I'd say, you know what, let somebody else deal with that. It's a little complicated, right? But the fact of the matter is now I've become an expert because I've had to do that. And that is how you really love the work you do, is when you're always learning something new. And so those pieces, plus I feel valued, I feel relevant. All of those things that make a job something that you absolutely love. And Yahoo Finance has the largest personal finance platform in the world. So with 700 million users or something along those lines. And for someone whose mission is to make an impact in people's lives, on how they manage their money, how they handle their work and job decisions, I can't ask for anything better.
Do you do you feel like this is a second act? Does it feel different than your first act?
You know, in a sense, it's a different, it's a shift, right? It's because I've gone from in-house to being entrepreneurial and doing my own business, to back in-house. But this is kind of a nice blend, because yes, I can still be entrepreneurial. I can still, have speaking engagements. I can still write books. I can still, I feel like as if I'm not stuck in a lane, and they're open to all kinds of ideas that I want to work on. So it's a sweet spot in one's career at this stage, where you have that opportunity, where you're respected, you've stayed relevant, your skills are up to date. It's not like you're playing catch up anywhere, but you can really make a difference now. And I feel so, more than a second act, to me, it's quite a more of a blend of the two. But being able to work remotely, hooray! This is what we love.
One of the things that I think is interesting about the work that you've been doing at Yahoo Finance is that you're really shining a light on what people in our generation are going through as we head toward an eventual retirement or non-retirement of sorts. When you look at the finances of people on this roadmap, how are we doing?
Yeah, Jane, it's a terrific question, and it's also one that is so individual, right? When we look at study after study, is pretty gloomy, to be honest with you. And when I ask experts, are we in a retirement crisis? And they're like, yeah, we are. And so what's happened is that many people in America at this age range, boomers, so to speak, or even we're talking about Gen X, who's nearing retirement, is just painfully and woefully unprepared, in the sense that very little savings. And there are a lot of reasons for the complications. For boomers like us, the later boomers, a lot of the issues were way back. You might have forgotten about the Great Recession, but those were during peak earnings years in their 40s for people who are now in their early 60s. And that's when you're sucking away the most. And a lot of people lost jobs. When they got jobs back, they weren't being paid at the same level. 401ks came on the scene. Nobody knew how to really invest and take responsibility. So I think there have been a lot of factors. I worry that many people are not prepared. And I just constantly tell people, even if you are prepared for retirement or to step away at some point, work of some kind has got to be part of your plan, as long as you possibly can do it, even if it's a safety net. And you and I can talk more about all the benefits besides the financial ones of doing that, because there's so many reasons to stay engaged.
Yeah, before we get there to that second act in work, I just want to talk a little bit more about the financial aspect, because you wrote a column recently for Yahoo Finance where you said a lot of people are simply delusional. They're delusional about how much they'll need. They're delusional about how long they'll live. Why? I feel like I talk about this stuff all the time, as you do. Why do we have such a blind spot?
Yeah, it's remarkable, the number of people who say they just don't want to think about it. They'll think about retirement down the road at some, point, or you say, how much do you need to have saved for a comfortable retirement? Oh, I think maybe $1 million. Well, they're really just throwing a dart. They haven't taken the time to sit down and just run the numbers. There are so many great calculators out there right now, from AARP to the mutual fund companies and on and on. They're easy to use. No, they're not going to give you a specific plan, but studies have shown that people who at least take the time to look at those numbers, to pull out some things. What do I have saved? What is my budget? What do I think my life is going to be like in my, seventh decade of life? I mean, where might I be living? Taking a good look at these things really helps people get a grip on starting to plan and to save more. And that is something that we all need to be inspired to do. But if you simply put your head in the sand, that's never going to happen.
How about the longevity piece of the picture? The fact that that we have this. There was a study that came out just this week. Anna Maria Lusardi and her folks from
Yeah.
GW did yet another look at longevity. What did they call it? Longevity literacy. Found yet again, we do not understand it. We don't have a good grip on the fact that if we live to be 65, chances are really good we're going to live into our 80s, and that can get expensive. How can we start to better understand longevity, and then how and using what financial tools are you encouraging people to plan for it?
Yeah, that's great. And I'm so glad you brought up that study because that is a really great one, the longevity literacy. They gave people a quiz and the number of failures, it's just stunning how many people don't understand the idea of longevity. And there's another one out this week from Transamerica on this same issue. This is something that we have got to face because people are, yes, with the pandemic, there was some shifting around in the numbers, but in fact, people are living longer, healthier lives for the most part than previous generations. But what happens is that last decade can be a pretty tough skate, right? There's still, some very serious issues. And Fidelity constantly, I think yearly, runs their calculator saying their caveats galore, but what might the average couple retiring at 65 this year spend out of pocket after Medicare on health expenses for the rest of your life? It's like $350,000. So come on, this is money that people don't say, oh, I'm saving for retirement. But do you have any clue what a huge chunk healthcare and medical costs are likely to be? I mean, I've had two parents who had dementia, and one had Alzheimer's, one had other dementia. And I know what these costs are. And it is stunning and shocking. And if you're not prepared, and there's great tools, just quickly. I mean, I'm a big fan of first, understand that you may live these extra, it's individual, of course it is. But if you can get a sense of what your longevity could mean, and financing, if you step out of the workforce at 65 of getting a steady paycheck, are you kidding me? You could be financing 3 decades of living in
Yeah.
retirement. So come on. I mean, you've got to face it. Look at those numbers, be serious. And again, we can talk more about a specific. I love HSAs with health savings accounts as a way that people can start earlier to set aside money for their retirement. It's just a triple trifecta of an investment opportunity.
It's such a good point because it allows you to put away money pre-tax, grow it tax-free. When you pull it out in retirement, you don't pay any taxes on it. It can be used almost as a supplemental savings account or a supplemental medical account for the rest of your life. We also talk a lot on this show about protected income, about having streams of income that will come in like a paycheck, generally annuities for the rest of your life. Rachel asks, why do you think people don't take the time to run their numbers? Could it be that they have trouble handling today? So to think ahead is more than they can actually handle.
I think that's an interesting point. I think there's inertia for sure. I think it's human nature to sort of, do inertia. But I think you're spot on there. There is a sense of, I am trying to make ends meet today. The last thing I want to do is peel back any more layers to see what's underneath this. So it takes a lot of psychological sort of push. And one thing that can be helpful if you have access to a certified financial planner of some sort that might be able to hold your hand. It doesn't have to be an expensive thing, but to have somebody who is unbiased and kind of keeps you accountable and just gives you that nudge. Let's just take a look here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Haley writes, and I want to point this out because I don't want to give anybody a heart attack here right now on this show. She writes $350,000 per year when I'm retired is too much to think about. It
No,
wasn't
right.
$350,000 per year, Haley. It's $350,000 for unreimbursed medical expenses for a 65-year-old couple in total.
The
But
rest of
when
your
you
life. Yeah.
right,
The rest of
when you
your life.
look at the breakdown of just Medicare costs, Medicare premiums, it works out to about $6,000 per person per year. So it is a substantial, very substantial sum of money. Okay, so we've basically outlined the case for continuing to earn money as long as you can. Many people will do that as a part of a second act. By the time well, actually, let me ask you, at what point in our lives do we tend to say, I've had enough of this, I have to just do something else?
Well, here's what's happened, Jean, is traditionally, I do think about 5 years before people officially leave their primary employer, they start feeling like, okay, I've kind of bottomed out here. I've gotten, I've flatlined a little bit. I'm not inspired. I'm not being pushed forward. I don't care anymore. And maybe they've met their big expenses, as you mentioned at the top of the show, tuitions, mortgages, so forth. I mean, we're talking about white collar workers for the most part right here. There are other workers where they just the sheer physical demands of their job make it almost imperative to step away for those reasons. But I do think the pandemic gave everyone this slice of time where we were all pretty scared. We didn't know what was going on. And there was this soul searching element that came through that people thought about, is this really what I want to be doing for the rest of my life? Is this what matters to me? Am I, making a difference? Am I in my family or my own life or the world, whatever it might be? I think it was a real reset button for people, whether it was doing a career transition. And this is across all age groups, not just people nearing retirement, but career transitions went boom. There was such a big transition here. People starting businesses, even if there were micro businesses on the side. We saw a lot of this happening, and I do think the pandemic really spurred this sort of inner soul searching, which is essential. And that's why today we see many people stepping out, even folks who had retired, stepping back into doing something different. I always wanted to do that. Let me give it a shot.
Do these trajectories into retirement and then unretiring take a particular path? Is this a 2-year course of action? Is it 5 years? How are you seeing it play out?
Yeah, Jean, it depends on how intense you want to be. If you're making a really dramatic shift, I would give yourself 3 years to make this spin around. This doesn't happen overnight. It's a progress. It's a whole process of moving, doing is this what I really want to be doing? Adding the skills and certificates you might need, moonlighting, following somebody around to see is it as dreamy as I think it's going to be, or is it suited to me personally? And then all those elements it takes to make a successful career transition, and patience is a big piece of that. It's not, and how much. The big question people need to ask themselves at this stage, if they're doing a second act, if they've stepped away from primary career, shifting into other kind of work, whether it could even just be simply consulting in the same field, but how much money do you need? Okay, this goes back to running that budget again, looking at your retirement accounts, but how much you need in a paid opportunity at this stage in your life will be a deciding factor of what kind of work you're going to do, how much time you have to prepare for it, and how much time you have to let it grow and develop.
When you are first looking at these opportunities, you mentioned basically testing the waters to see if you like it. And I think that's actually really good advice. I mean, there are certain things that we love to do as hobbies that potentially are not careers for which we're well suited. Early in my career as a journalist, I thought maybe I'd like to be a food writer. And so I went and I spent 6 months in cooking school and quickly discovered that although I love to make dinner for my family, cooking day and night is not something that I have the temperament for. And 30 years down the road, I am still in personal finance. But I think it's important. I mean, there are things that are better hobbies than they are work.
Yeah, and you need to recognize that in yourself. And by the way, we're glad you're still in personal finance journalism. But I do think that that it's important to not ruin your hobby. But at the same time, I wrote a book a few years ago called Never Too Old to Get Rich, all about midlife entrepreneurship. And I found in there was this great study that showed that people who started a business in the realm of their hobby actually were more successful entrepreneurs. It often took them longer. It's like the tortoise and the hare kind of thing to develop. But you know what? They really knew where the needs were in that field. They knew what niche they could get into. They knew people. They had a built-in network of potential customers. So it depends on how you approach it. Again, I'm a horse fanatic and I love horses and it's my whole passion. But trust me, I would not want to be teaching riding lessons because I would have no patience, for it. But I do love it, but I know better. I know it's where I go to escape and find my solace and my quiet space there. But I talked to so many people who have thought, oh, I'm a fabulous gardener. I'm going to start a landscape design business. And when they get into the garden and it's their job, it's drudgery because actually they're people. They like being around people. This was their, getaway spot.
How do you surface opportunities? If you've been doing the same thing for a very long time, how do you figure out where the opportunities are in general, and then where the opportunities are for you?
Yeah. That's the old $1 million question. What you really need to do is step back, as I was saying and I use that word. A mutual friend of ours, probably, I think Maggie Mistel. She uses the term soul searching a lot, and that is what it's all about. I mean, you have to do. It's about what interests you, and what would really what passion do you wear on your sleeve? Is it a mission of something of a nonprofit that maybe you'd like to get involved with? And this could be a transition using existing skill sets. You don't have to make a major pivot. This is redeploying skills you've already had early in your career, mid-career, late career. You're just shifting in a new direction that's going to fire you up again and get you excited about adding value. So understand what it is that turns you on. Understand what are your skills? What are you really good at? And most of us take our skills for granted. So this could do a little, don't be shy. Ask around, ask people, your friends, your family, colleagues, what do you think I'm good at? Because it might surprise you what they see and they identify it and how they describe it. And you think, yeah, maybe I could be good at that. I think, there's an example of someone I know who was a fabulous sailor and he never realized that he could also, when he went to find a job, it turns out he was a fantastic project manager. His ability to sail and navigate was something that actually worked in the workplace in a whole different way, but it gave him the same satisfaction.
So interesting. And Paul points out it's the same as great athletes make poor coaches. This is why Michael Jordan didn't become a coach. He knew that he had no patience for players who didn't have his talent and his passion. And I think that's true. You need to know what you want to do, but you also need to know what you don't want to do. If we're getting tactical about fields, I know in your books you've written about those fields that are generally growing, that are generally hiring. Are there certain places that you would direct people to look?
Yeah, education, if you could somehow get in that whole vast sphere of educational opportunities, I think there's ripe opportunities there on all different kinds of work in the education field. Even what we do, financial education. I mean, anything you can do in that area, I think there's a need for helping people in that area. I think healthcare is never, it is strong as can be in so many different levels, from very simple things, from, it's not simple as a job, but a patient advocate, or, some of the jobs I used to write about a lot are still very relevant, senior massage therapist. If, there's different kinds of massage. It's not have to be really heavy massages. My mom always got massages once a week when she was in her 90s, and it was gentle, but there's a certain kind, so you can retrain if that's something that might interest you. But so that's in the healthcare field, but also in the, I like to call them jobs to ride the age wave. So jobs that people in their 70s can do for people in their 80s, or 60s and 70s for 80s and 90s. So think about what the trends are, where the needs are, whether it's helping someone relocate to smaller, living somewhere smaller. These are different angles to get it. But healthcare education, I also think there are plenty of opportunities if you just do some sleuthing with small associations, or even startups who want somebody with expertise, who's not caught up in the ego that I need a big title or I need a big salary. Because if you've done those numbers and what that nut is that you feel comfortable. We all want to get paid, right? So you want to
Right.
get paid something, but you want to feel valued. But if you don't need it to pay the mortgage, maybe you can have a little flexibility there.
When we look at getting these jobs, sometimes I think the feeling, particularly among those of us in our late 50s, early 60s, is these corporations are not going to want to look at me. They're going to look at me and they're going to think I'm too old, and they're going to want to hire somebody who's a lot younger. Are you seeing that change at all? I mean, we're at a very interesting point in time in the aging of our population, where I think that many companies are going to find, unless they access older workers, they're not going to have enough people to work.
That is an excellent point, Jean, because just sheer demographics, that it's global, the aging of the populations across the globe, but in the United States, the number of people, and I may botch this slightly, but it's like under 16, there's more people over 65 than under 16 today. So the fact is it's an aging population, and there's just not as many young people coming up through the system that are going to meet the needs of these employers. So an employer who's savvy will know, let's hold on to our workers as long as we can, or encourage them to come back in. And we've seen an uptick in companies. Transamerica did a nice study on this as well, of companies who are starting to offer more phased retirements, more flexibility, more training for people at a more advanced stage in their career. A lot of the workplace training is for younger workers. This is really, they're recognizing, we want to keep people here. So there is this, and even one of their questions on their report was talking about, are you more open to hiring workers over 50? And they said, yes, in fact, we are. So I do think we're seeing a change. Some states are doing a fabulous job with it. Colorado is one of them. But I do encourage people to, reach out, because I think companies are grappling with, they say we need employees, but we're not finding them with the right skill set. Well, I think there's a whole bunch of people out there who want to work longer, who are willing to, but they want some flexibility. That's the key to making us all happy in our work. So there's got to be a meeting. A couple of quick things, though, that the study, the Transamerica one, found in particular, was that the problem is people say they want to continue working longer and so forth, but they're not doing the work to make that a reality for themselves. They have got to keep their skills up to date. They need to, they're not adding the education, they're not adding the skills, they're not staying healthy. They say that in these studies, come on, you have got to stay healthy, because, the one, eating with an eye to nutrition, the one reason people say, I'm going to work longer, but the one reason EBRI, the Employee Benefit Research Institute, finds year after year is people retire earlier than they say they're going to for a health reason. Or for an aging relative. So pay attention if you have this vision of having this really cool next act, and as you move forward in life, that is a combination of pay and passion, then let's make sure you're healthy and you have the skills to offer.
If you find that there is a skills gap, do you have to go back to school in order to get those skills? I mean, there are a lot of people who are, myself included, I'm not ready for another master's program. I wasn't, I'm not there.
No, no, I don't think that's a great idea for many people. What is a great idea is, again, this is one of the trends that came out of our pandemic period, is there's so many virtual learning opportunities. This has started to gel up prior to the pandemic, but it just took off. There are so many wonderful learning opportunities right online that are just adding, you can cherry pick. I just want to add this particular skill, or I want to, it's very, can you really carve it up. You don't have to get a master's or another degree necessarily. I mean, if you feel like you do, fine. But frankly, you can go back in and just add just enough, shine things up just a bit that will really make you marketable, but also relevant in the workplace in general. And you'll love the learning. Anytime you learn something new, it just adds to your life. Your whole way of thinking changes. So just give it a shot.
Yeah, I think one thing to focus on is actually just the new style of communication, right? I mean, people are not communicating in the workplace the same way that we used to. It's not as much email, it's not as much on the phone, it's Slack and Teams and Zoom. And if you haven't learned those things or used those things, they can be daunting, but they can also be learned.
Yeah, they can. And I'm so glad you mentioned that quickly. If we just have 1 second, in my shift into working for Yahoo Finance and having a manager who was a bit younger than me, what was so amazing is that I always told older workers, when I'd speak or consult with, I'd be, make sure you keep your technology skills up to date and da 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 da. Well, and I'd say, oh, it all comes down to communication. Well, when I started this job, yeah, I'm working remotely. I emailed my editor, I called, I texted, I had no response. And I thought, well, jeepers, what's going on here? And then I realized she was on Slack. Well, I had never used Slack. So I was like, oh my gosh. And so that one's on me. I didn't ask, how do you like to communicate? And really, that's a must. That's a must do. And once we settled that one, we're off to the races. It's great.
It is very true. We have covered a whole bunch of ground here, Kerry. And so what I'd love to do for the folks who are listening and the people who will watch it back is to just try to put it in a nutshell, in a few bullet points. If you are looking ahead, if you're looking toward your second act, if you want to be, as the title of your book says, in control at 50 plus, what are the top 3 things you would tell somebody to do?
Well, number one, you absolutely need to take control in the sense of knowing who you are and what it is you are looking for. You're not a victim of anything. Take control of what is it that you want at this stage in life. So what are your skills? What is your ambition right now? What would really turn you on? So that's a very specific thing. Number two is, please look at your financials. Just open it, try very hard to look at how much do you have socked away for retirement at this point. What's a month look like? What is a budget for you? How much are you spending? Can you trim back? Because being lean and mean in any sense of the word is going to help you. So number one is looking at the career piece, look at your financial piece. And the third piece, you might want to consider, where is it? How do you see your next chapter, where you want to live? Because relocation is something that a lot of people do consider to find lower cost of living and a variety of other things, from dealing with climate change or whatever it might be. But these are factors that are near and dear. They're essential to moving forward into the next chapter. But that financial piece is huge. And Jean, I will say one thing that you've written about many times is just taking that notebook, even for a few days, and writing down what you're spending your money on. I mean, right? I mean, that's a classic tool.
It's huge. Yeah. And it's exactly what we work with people on in our retirement, in our finance fix coaching program. And we've got a lot of pre-retirees who go through the program just to get a handle on what's going in, what's going out, and where it's going, so that when you when you watch the flows of your money, all of a sudden the power is yours to control where you're using your resources. We all have limited resources. We just don't all have the right control over those resources. Kerry, this is always a pleasure. I know that the folks watching are going to want to find out more about you, and also read your work, see more of your work. Where should they go?
Well, thank you. First, you can, if you just search for Kerry Hannon in Yahoo Finance, you can find my columns. I write a couple of columns a week. You can find them all on Yahoo Finance. KerryHannon.com is my website. So it's KerryHannon.com. That's always a great place to find me. And I'm on social media platforms that LinkedIn and X, I guess we're calling it, and a Thread. So have a look around.
Amazing. I haven't dived into threads yet, but it is on my list. If you are looking for more information from us, please go to our website. It's protectedincome.org. You will find a lot of information there about protected lifetime income. And if you're looking for more information on this conversation specifically, you'll find it at protectedincome.org/Hannon. Kerry, thanks. Please come back again. Always such a pleasure.
Thanks, Jean. Loved it.
Okay. Bye, guys.